Okay, so this is going to be a fun exercise for your memory and for your knowledge of history. And for that, you'll need to first close your eyes and try to imagine. Imagine, with all your imaginary powers, what life was like in the United States in 1952. For some of you, this may be easier than others, but try to think back on it. Come along. Here's the setting. It's 1952 and our country is experiencing its first wave of baby boomer parents. And the culture they brought with them was very pervasive. 1952 in and of itself was big. Vladimir Putin, Roseanne Barr, and Dan Aykroyd were all born that year. England's Elizabeth II ascended the throne. Dwight Eisenhower was elected president, and it seemed like everybody wanted to like Ike. The Interstate Highway Act was just a vision that ultimately materialized in 1956. But the idea reflected the mood of the times. People wanted to travel and have fun. And with World War II in the rearview mirror, and Ike's promise to wind things down in Korea, people were starved for peaceful and a diverse family lifestyle. Almost all of America seemed to have more and more free time, and they also had the resources to pursue all kinds of diversions. Migration to the suburbs was becoming a really big thing, and huge shopping malls were starting to be in vogue. In 1952, construction began on the big Northland Shopping Center in Southfield, a suburb of Detroit. People now wanted to not only go out and shop, but also get out and mingle and browse. And then too, there was our love of cars. More and more people had cars, either a Ford, Chevrolet, or Chrysler, of course. And more people were taking advantage of going to all kinds of places, like drive-in theaters and drive-in restaurants. And in 1952, what emerged most was a wild craving for entertainment of all types. The demand for entertainment was further fueled by a burgeoning new television industry.
Remember that name. Lila Batamidi.
I Love Lucy.
Let's bring them out here and see what the folks think, huh? Thanks, Mr. Cannon.
Arthur Godfrey.
Here they are, the McGuire sisters.
Jackie Gleason. Jack Benny.
That badge pays $464 a month. That's what the job's worth. I knew that when I hired on. $67.40 comes out for withholding. I give $27.84 for pension and $12 for widows and orphans. That leaves me $356.76. That badge is worth $1.82 an hour. So, mister, you just settle back in that chair because I'm going to blow about $20 of it right now.
And Dragnet all became household names. An American in Paris starring Gene Kelly won the Academy Award for Best Picture in 1952. Humphrey Bogart won the Academy Award for Best Actor for his performance in African Queen. And Vivien Leigh won Best Actress for her performance in A Streetcar Named Desire. In Michigan, the University of Michigan Wolverine football team was led by head coach Benny Oosterbaan. The Detroit Tigers, despite having their worst record in club history, still drew big crowds. A pitcher named Virgil Trucks threw 2 no-hitters that year, and Harvey Keene and George Kell were on the team. Al Colleen was still in high school, but would emerge 2 years later as the savior of the Tigers. The Detroit Lions, led by the wildly popular Bobby Lane, won the NFL championship. And if you lived in one of Michigan's Upper Peninsula small towns, entertainment was defined by rapidly following one of 5 main sporting events, namely high school basketball, high school basketball, high school basketball, high school basketball, or, you guessed it, high school basketball. So now I take you to one of these small towns in 1952, to Nama, Michigan. Nama is just north and east of the big city of Escanaba. To this day, the city never had more than 500 residents. And in 1952, there wasn't a whole lot there beyond the lumber company. However, one thing they did have was a high school with a dynamite basketball team. The Nema Arrows showed promise in 1951, only to suffer a heartbreaking loss at the end of the season. But everybody knew they had something special and a very strong team coming back in 1952. The people of Nema were wildly hopeful that 1952 would be their magical year. Namely, it would be a year where they would realize their dream of a perfect high school basketball season. The cross-section of residents who actually lived in Nema included people with all kinds of backgrounds. Polish, Finnish, Swedish, German, and Native Americans. In the past, not all of them had always gotten along. But when they did come together, it was about the love of their high school basketball team, and the players were a cohesive, laser-focused group of great kids. The Nema Arrows basketball team was led by their respected quarterback. He was the team's center, top player, and leading scorer. And he is none other than our own Paul Thibault. A consummate team player, what made Paul special was a wicked left hook shot that he spent hundreds of hours perfecting with the coaching help of his older brother, Bob. Paul also had a great jump shot, and he had outstanding defensive skills under the basket. The Arrows were coached by Harold "Babe" Anderson, an experienced and knowledgeable basketball man who would later go on to be inducted into the Upper Peninsula Sports Hall of Fame in 1983. He had other great players on that team. As previously mentioned, they all got along really well. It was a magical team, and in 1952, the team breezed through their regular season games without a defeat. They traveled by bus all over the UP in those days, to all kinds of places. One thing was always guaranteed: it was gonna be cold. As the season went on, the team just got better and better. People were taking notice, even people in the nearby metropolis of Escanaba. Furthermore, as the season progressed, it became really apparent that everything was going to boil down to that last game of the season. It was a big one, too. It was a matchup looming large against the arch rival Rapid River Rockets. During the 1952 season, Paul proved himself more and more as a leader and a special player. His proud parents were at the games too, and he was what you might call the apple of his mother's eye. She kept track of all the articles being written about her special boy that year. Again and again, Paul proved to be truly the ultimate team player. On those occasions when the Arrows were so far ahead, Paul was able to sit out for a while. He would say something like, "It was fun just getting to sit down and see how my teammates were playing." Of course, one of the other reasons he liked getting to sit out was because it also gave him a chance to admire the cheerleaders. On one such occasion, he commented to an opposing player after the game about how good-looking one of their blonde cheerleaders was. Who knows? Maybe he was looking for a name, maybe even a phone number, a date. Anyway, that player's response, "Hey, watch it, pal. That's my sister." The Rapid River Rocket game was a home game played on Friday, February 29th, 1952. That day, the temperature was a brisk 5 degrees below zero at 9 o'clock in the morning, but it rose to a balmy 10 degrees by tip-off. So was it to be? Would this be their perfect season? Here's how the Escanaba Daily Press reported it on the following Saturday morning. Nema, the small city of 500, had its biggest basketball bench in history last night as coach Harold "Babe" Anderson's Arrows climaxed an undefeated season by drubbing the Rapid River Rockets 61-55. It was the first time in the 21-year history of the sport at Nema High School that a team swept through all of its regular season games without a loss. And it climaxed a 5-year struggle on the part of Coach Anderson for an undefeated season. The community club gym swelled at the seams as a jam-packed crowd took on the historical event. The victory was number 17 for the Arrows, and it sends them into the district tournament as the favored team next Wednesday night. Coach Norman Staw's Rockets, however, almost threw a monkey wrench into the works in a hectic final period that had the spectators in a constant uproar. The Arrows completely dominated play in the opening minutes of the game and finished the first quarter with a 19-5 lead. The Anderson men stretched the margin to 36-16 at the half. Things began getting tough for the Arrows in the third frame. Rapid River began finding the range and outscored NEMA 19-18. But more important to the Arrows was the loss of center Paul Thibault midway in the third period. Paul collected his 5th personal foul in a wild scramble under the basket. The Rockets tried desperately to overtake NEMA in the final quarter. They narrowed the gap to 4 points in the final minute, but were unable to make up the deficit. Lawrence Seymour drew his 5th personal foul for NEMA at the 2-minute mark, but Rapid River also lost Walden Johnson. So hey, there you have it. It was a great and glorious night in NEMA. Paul Thibault was a local hometown hero. It was sort of 1952's entertainment UP style. Finishing their season, the NEMA Arrows did go on to the state championship, and they did finish with their first perfect season. It's something that some people who can remember still talk about today. In the end, and in the final analysis, how important was Paul? Consider this, that was written the following March in the Escanaba Press. Nemus Thibault is honored as one of the top 5 players in the Upper Peninsula. Or this, as written in the Sault Ste. Marie Evening News. UP sports writers named 6 area basketball players for top honors. Paul Thibault, Class E. Or this, as written in the finals flashback of the Michigan High School Basketball History Annuals. NEMA 1952 in Class E play at Crystal Falls. NEMA climaxed its finest season ever, winning the state championship 64-44. With its win, the Arrows concluded the first undefeated season in school history and earning the school's first ever basketball crown under head coach Harold Babe Anderson. Paul Thibault starred for NEMA. And hey, wait a minute. Maybe you're asking yourself, what was it that Paul said to the coach and to those teammates as they huddled after he picked up that 5th personal foul in the big Rapid River game? It was a tense moment for sure, right? What could he say? There's no record of what he said, and given the heat of the moment, I don't think even Paul remembers. However, I'd like to think it went something like this. Okay, guys, I got a bad break, but you can do this. Hang in there. It's up to you now. I know you can do this. I have faith in you. I love you guys. We're a team. And even though I'm not out there on the court with you now, I'll be out there with you in mind and spirit. So don't worry. Play hard. And I'll be right here checking out the cheerleaders.